Top 5 breakfasts for diabetics. Want to know what they are? In this video, I brought in Nutritionist Isadora to help us out. Because you guys always ask and you comment a lot, but since I'm not a nutritionist, just a doctor, an endocrinologist who specializes in diabetes, Isadora will be adding her expertise to this video.
So, John, it's pretty common in doctors' offices for diabetic patients or those in a pre-diabetic situation to have these questions about what they can eat for breakfast and what the best foods are, and how we can mix and match those foods. I came up with 5 yummy combos that can definitely help us control our blood sugar levels. So, for anyone out there trying to keep their blood sugar on the low side, these options are highly recommended. First up is the popular fruit smoothie, also known as a blended drink. You can add a portion of fruit to milk, whether it's whole, semi-skimmed, or skimmed. I recommend avocado. It's a fruit with a low carb content and healthy fats. It's a bit higher in calories compared to other fruits like strawberries, which could also be added to the smoothie, but still we can use avocado with milk, and I suggest adding some ice. Blend it all up, and it adds volume to the mix. It'll look like a shake or a smoothie.
So why is breakfast so important? Because in the morning, there's a rise in some hormones like cortisol, growth hormone, adrenaline, and glucagon also increases in the morning, naturally, physiologically. Plus, the liver produces sugar, especially in those who already have insulin resistance, are developing or are at the pre-diabetes level, and also in diabetics. That's why sometimes you don't eat anything during the night, nothing in the early morning, and you wake up with high blood sugar levels. And what would be considered high blood sugar or glycemic value? For people without diabetes, the ideal would be up to 99. For diabetics, it changes a bit. A value up to 130 would be good. And often patients say, I only have this increased glucose or rather glycemic level of 140 in the morning, and then during the day, my blood sugar stays normal. I monitor it and everything's fine. We already know that having high blood sugar just in the morning is already a risk factor for heart attacks, strokes, and increases cardiovascular risk. So it's really important to take care of that meal, mainly to improve your metabolism and also help regulate blood sugar levels throughout the day.
Nothing beats focusing on the first meal of the day, which is breakfast. By the way, if you're not sure what to eat, the answer isn't to skip the meal. Instead, look for the best choices and consult with a professional who can guide you through the options that fit your lifestyle and preferences. The second idea on my list, which might be familiar to many, is scrambled eggs. Eggs are a great source of protein, making them a tasty addition to your breakfast when you scramble them in a pan. Add a spoonful of cream cheese, ricotta, or the popular cottage cheese to get that creamy texture. Then enjoy your creamy scrambled eggs along with the classic black coffee. Keep in mind that this black coffee shouldn't be sweetened with sugar, regardless of the kind. Sugar is sugar, and it will act the same way in your body. Whether it's white, brown, or demerara, it's still sugar. So for diabetics who need to sweeten their black coffee, stick to using sweeteners, also known as sugar substitutes.
Good you brought up the sugar type issue, because some kinds have a rep for being good. The gourmet sugar, the demerara sugar. Actually, the glycemic index and glycemic load is pretty similar among sugars. They have some mineral differences, but nobody really goes to sugar for minerals. And one thing that helps, I only drink black coffee. I don't use sugar, don't use sweetener. And I see a lot of people struggling to eliminate sugar because it's kind of tough indeed. If you're used to sweet coffee and try to change all of a sudden. So here's a tip. Wean yourself off it. Do it gradually. If you normally use a spoonful, try using 75%, then cut down to half. This could take around 3-4 weeks, and you'll notice that after you quit sugar, or even sweeteners, you won't manage it anymore. That's what happened to me. If anyone watching, if it's the same for you, drop a comment. Also drop a comment. If you drink coffee every day, I talk a lot about coffee on this channel. You guys already know the benefits, so it's worth trying to give up sugar.
They ask a lot about sugars, that, like you mentioned, some sugars, because they don't go through the refining process, they get to keep some nutrients. But if I want to give you selenium, magnesium, I wouldn't use sugar as the source of these nutrients. You could even extend this to the famous pink salt, which people use because they think it's more beneficial. But salt and sugar are never going to be sources of micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, all that stuff. And speaking of, talking about micronutrients, again, another idea. Bringing in a food rich in micronutrients. Our third option would be a slice of papaya with powdered milk or powdered coconut milk. If you haven't tried this combo, I highly recommend it. I have it in the morning. I'm obsessed, learnt it from a patient, and I've stuck with it ever since. So papaya is kind of a fruit. It's like a joker card, and it also has a low carb content, Remember, it's always a good idea to incorporate a source of protein for our breakfast, and the powdered milk, it serves as our protein source. Along with this fruit serving, it could be powdered coconut milk too, especially if you're lactose intolerant. You could use this version, powdered coconut milk. Or if you're vegan, you could also go for the powdered coconut milk. We could pair it with our typical black coffee, which we just talked about, right, without the sugar, or head towards a bit of cafe au lait for those who like to mix it up, or even use the milk with instant coffee.
You hit the nail on the head when you spoke about the amount of carbs. I've observed that diabetics often become preoccupied with the glycemic index, ending up overlooking the glycemic load. The glycemic load, or the sugar content, and the carbs per meal are just as vital as the glycemic index. So, what is the glycemic index? It's what happens after you eat and digest and determines how much the food will spike your blood sugar. If it's a high glycemic index, there will be a surge in blood sugar. Your body will have to generate more insulin, resulting in a spike in insulin, which isn't great from a metabolism perspective. So yes, the glycemic index is something to pay attention to, but just as crucial is the glycemic load, or how much sugar there is. For instance, if you choose a healthy food and then overload on that, you will have a lot of carbs, a lot of sugar, which is also bad for your metabolism. So keep an eye on the glycemic load, or the amount of carbs per serving, and also the glycemic index. There are also options available to lower food glycemic indices, say by adding chia seeds or flax seeds. If you have an apple, for example, and add chia seeds, which I pretty much dig, it will bring down the glycemic index, but the fruit's glycemic load doesn't change, right? It's just the glycemic index that does. Alright, Iso, your opinions for pick number 4?
They mentioned chia and flaxseed, and we'll bring both here. We were discussing glycemic index, right? It's about understanding the impact of carbs we eat. Because you can consume a food that maybe has a bit more carbs, but if you mix it with other foods that have different nutritional values or nutritional composition, it wouldn't stimulate insulin production like if it were consumed by itself. For the fourth option, we'll use both chia and flaxseed, even as flaxseed flour. It could be yogurt, preferably natural, full fat or low fat. Again, it depends on your weight goal, whether you need to lose weight or gain weight or keep your current weight. And add a low GI fruit. A strawberry could be a good choice, and we'll use either chia or flaxseed. And I always advise to add in a couple of nuts, like almonds or walnuts, the so-called nuts, which, like avocados, they contain some good fats that are beneficial for us.
There's also this myth about diabetics not being allowed to eat certain foods, like bread, for instance. Yeah, diabetics, it's true that they're not supposed to have bread or even bananas. Diabetics aren't allowed to have pineapple, watermelon. People ask a lot about this. So, is this true or just a myth?
So, once again, we got to put it all into context, but overall, it's kind of a myth, right? When it comes to this little bread over there, it can exist preferably, right? Actually, it should be a whole grain bread. And when we say whole grain bread, there unfortunately isn't a law that states a minimum amount of whole grain flour to consider a bread as whole grain. So we need to be extra careful when reading the label of that food item in the supermarket. The first ingredient should be whole grain flour. So preferably always go for breads that have a higher percentage of whole grain flour, right? Rich in grains there. And I know they can be, well, kind of dry. But here comes an idea that I'm going to share with you guys comes in about how we can use something a bit more moist. So for those who like to make a chicken spread or a tuna spread, you could mix in some cottage cheese or even some light mayonnaise. You could make a mix with a source of protein. The mayonnaise is high in fat, and the cottage cheese or cream cheese will have a good amount of protein too. So we could add shredded chicken or flaked tuna, creating a protein-rich spread for our whole grain bread. And of course, we can pair this with our regular black coffee or coffee with milk.
So those were the 5 options. If you like this video, give it a rating from 0 to 10. If it's a 10, I'll make more videos with Isa. There are lots of topics we could discuss here, so if you have any suggestions, just drop them in the comments. Also, let us know where in the world you're watching this video from. Tell us here. Now, I'm going to recommend a video for you to watch. It's a video where I shared 12 tips to lower blood sugar levels and reduce glycated hemoglobin. If you're diabetic, I'm sure this video will be helpful. Just click here, right there. See you next time. I think that's it.